Sound check, 1, 2.
This is the 217 Recovery Podcast with Corey Winfield.
And he knows as soon as he gives it to her, he's gonna give her his heart to her too.
And we'll have kids and get married.
That's too far.
Holy shit.
Welcome to the 217 Recovery Podcast. My name is Corey Winfield. Appreciate you listening, whether it's on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcast. There's so many ways to listen. Google Podcasts, Deezer, Castbox. Appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you sharing it with your friends. Yeah, I was making the new open there today, and I came across that little bit of audio that I had to put in there, and I'll play it for you a little bit later in the podcast. It's just me solo, and it'll probably be just me solo for a while till I can kind of get my bearings going. Of course, Project Nation, they are still in Boyne City doing their thing. I am now in Traverse City, which is pretty exciting. New job, same kind of career path. Things are going pretty well, and I'm not giving up on 217 Recovery. No, not at all. It's just staying busy and doing things that I need to do to help myself in my personal recovery. I was sharing that with a guy today, and he kind of asked, well, what happened? Why are you trying to do this and that and then everything else? And I explained to him that, 5 years ago in January is when I went to the hospital with liver failure and kidney failure, and that wasn't fun. But I remember when I came out of the hospital, and the doctors were even like, you should go to AA, and you should do this and that. And, of course, nobody likes being told what to do, especially me. I knew it all, man. I knew it all. I didn't need AA. I'm not going to try to join a cult. I didn't really know much of AA at that point. I had never been to a meeting. I just knew what I saw on TV, stuff like that, and what other people had said. And those other people were other addicts, people who were in active addiction. So, of course, they're not going to want to go to AA. They weren't ready to give up yet. And so that's what I thought, though. I thought, I don't need AA. I don't need counseling. I don't need therapists. I'm not crazy. Who sees therapists? Crazy people. That's what I thought at the time. And the process, God put me through it. I prayed for patience. I prayed to get this thing figured out and to never have to drink again. And I had to go through it all, man. 5 years, probably 4 years of just back and forth, on and off. I've been sober now 15 months. Do I have it totally figured out? No. But I'm on the right path. And I know 15 months is the longest I've ever had in my life. So I'm doing something right. And I'm just going to keep continuing to do that. But when I first, like I said, started off, it was a hard road, and to accept that, okay, I do need help, and maybe I am crazy, so maybe I should see a therapist. And that is something that I enjoy now. I enjoy talking with my therapist, and, it just helps me get stuff off my chest. A lot of people, and I did this early on too, was I would use AA as my personal therapist. And I would go in and I would open up about things. And, a lot of people do that. And I guess it's okay, but you just got to be careful, to make sure that you keep it on topic and keep it, how it's affecting your sobriety. And if you can't figure that out, you need to. And when I say that, I mean, you need to, and you can always bring it back to your recovery because it's something that you're going through. It's something that's bothering you. And when we were in active addiction, things that would bother us wouldn't bother us so much if we drank, or it would bother us too much when we drank, or used whatever drugs. So, you can always relate something back to, this is what's keeping me from not drinking. And then people won't mind, and some of the people in AA or NA or whatever meetings that you go to that you're going to share at, some of them have their own problems too, and they want to share. And, if you're taking up too much time, they will cut you off. You can ask Chris Goss about that. And now he can laugh about it.
Sexual relationship.
And I don't think he was talking about sexual relationships, but it was something that he can look back at now, though, and probably kind of chuckle and go, yeah, that happened. and it is what it is. But yeah, so I'm not sure where I was going with all that story, but back to, where I'm at now and doing the things that I need to be doing. I did tell the guy that, this is part of my recovery, is to be in recovery and to work in recovery and make it a career, and not make it someone else's career, because I thought I wanted to be like a drug counselor and I could really help people. And yeah, maybe I could. And maybe I'm helping people right now. We still get emails and stuff thanking us for what we do. And I mean, all I do is turn on a microphone and talk about my day and how my recovery is going. And if that helps you, then that's cool. That's kind of what I'm going for. But, with the background that I had already, doing radio for 20 years, it's something that I learned and I grew to love. Could you imagine flying airplanes, for 20 years, and all of a sudden, nope, you're not flying airplanes anymore. You'd be like, that becomes a big part of who you are. And radio became a big part of who I was, and I enjoyed it. I really loved it. I didn't enjoy some of the pressure that came with it and some of the titles that I kept adding over the years, but that's where the money was made. But the fun was had on the air and always trying to be creative and do stuff that people weren't doing. And yes, I love Howard Stern, but I try not to be like Howard Stern. Howard Stern is Howard Stern. I can't copy him. So I would try to kind of go outside the box. And yeah, there's times where you steal stuff from other people on radio. If I was, in Phoenix or wherever I was, if I could hear something good on the radio, well, how could I make it better? And that's kind of what I tried to do. But with this being a career, I think was a much more realistic thing for me. Even though I had never done a podcast before, people told me, do a podcast. I don't know, what am I supposed to talk about? But being recovery and early recovery is what I'm talking about. It makes it perfect, and it makes it something where I can do it. I don't dread it. I look forward to talking on the mic, believe it or not. So it was just kind of a natural fit, whereas opposed to, yeah, I'm going to go back to school and be a drug counselor. That it just didn't complete me. If that kind of sounds weird, but it never really made me happy. I felt like I was doing that to make everybody else happy. And yes, deep down, I did want to help people. When I went to the it wasn't like a mental hospital, but it was a mental, it was a mental facility, but it wasn't like the ones where you can't leave. But I went there, and it was severe depression is what they diagnosed me with. But one of the psychologist came out. He's like, well, your problem is, and I don't know. Why don't you tell me? He's like, first of all, you need to make a list. And I was like, a list? He's like, yeah, you got 20 things you're trying to do, and you can't do it like that. You got to make a list and go down the list. And it's okay if you don't complete things, but just have something for it structured so you're not driving yourself nuts. And then he said, another thing is, when you talked about your radio career, you weren't talking about the funny things you did or, the cool bands you introduced and all the wild times you had. You started bringing up how you like to help people, and you did it without even realizing it. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I saw you light up when you talked about how you organized a food drive, and, you got your radio stations involved with the food bank in Arkansas, and you guys raised 200,000, meals or whatever it was, 20,000 meals, something like that. It was something crazy. Maybe it was 200,000. I don't know. It was a lot. It was crazy a lot. And, me telling that story about how the first year we did it, we just put boxes in the stores. Well, not we, but the food bank. And we just told people to go drop off food. Yeah, didn't work. It was a failure. Big time failure. And that next year I thought, you know what? No, not giving up, because people shouldn't starve, especially down south in Arkansas. I mean, the kids, it's a struggle. And I mean, it was such a struggle that I didn't even believe it. I thought that's, this is, was it in 2010, 2011, 2012? Anyway, I thought people don't live like that anymore. But no, they did. And so that was something that meant something to me. So I didn't give up. I just made it better. And then that next year, we just hit it out the park. And, we had help from other resources, but, and by other resources, I mean, like the movie theater in town and the ideas that we had. And, it was amazing. And that's what made me feel good. And he picked up on that and said that, so helping people is something that I always wanted to do. And when I look at somebody who's in active addiction now, I feel not bad for them, but I feel hope for them. I feel they can do it. I was listening to the song earlier by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and one of the lines in the song is talking about, this is a life that I choose. And the name of the song is I Could Die For You. And when I heard it when I was in the shower earlier today, I thought, man, that is something right there. The life I choose. And a lot of people say, well, I don't choose to live in addiction. I didn't choose to get addicted to meth or to heroin or to alcohol. Maybe you didn't choose to get addicted. But right now, today, I have a choice. I could have picked up liquor at the store today. I didn't do that. This is the life today that I actually choose. And I can say that for the first time, in a long time. When I was in active addiction, I really did not have a choice anymore. I had to drink. I had to stop the shaking. I had to not wake up trying to puke, puking so much to where I'm dry heaving and I got nothing. So I'm drinking water just to puke. I'm drinking Kool-Aid, I'm drinking whatever just so I could puke something out. I don't have to do that anymore. And I choose that life today. I choose to be happy. I choose to be around people that have that same kind of thought process. And there are people that, I've met along the way that, they're still struggling, and I don't judge them. I was there too. I mean, I'm one drink away from doing that all over again. And that is the scary part. And that's what keeps me choosing the right path. I'm telling you, once you've had just a taste of this good life, you don't want to go back to it. You really don't. And that goes for all drugs. That goes for everything. And people think, well, I can smoke pot. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, man. It's legal. You're right. You can. Go ahead. Me, I choose not to. There's nothing wrong with having a bad day. There's nothing wrong with being sad. There's nothing wrong with being upset and dealing with it. You don't have to have something that, well, I do. I was stressed at work. And okay, well, what's that going to lead you to? Look at it like that. Is it worth it? I mean, Chris Goss, he can tell you that straight up. He thought when he got out of treatment last year that, well, I'm just going to keep smoking pot and I'm going to keep doing this. Well, it didn't work out for the guy so well. Or did it? Because it landed him back in treatment where he left and then came back and then left and came back. And then finally he was like, I'm going to go live in sober living with you, Corey. Like, this is something that I need to do. And, Chris is doing a great job. And he's really going to help the Project Nation podcast along, with Ryan and Dustin. And I think Chris is going to add something to him. I don't know how long he's going to do it, but, I was working on this thing for, I don't know, it was probably about an hour to try to figure out how to get the computer going where I could record Chris, from Boyne City, me being in Traverse City. And I finally figured it out. And I'm like, hey, man, we're going to do the podcast tonight. And he just wrote back that he was busy. He's going to be watching Hulu on his phone. So if you're a big fan of Chris Goss and you miss him, well, he doesn't miss you. He misses his Hulu and whatever dumb TV show he's watching on Hulu. Yeah, he likes that more than you tonight. So, yeah, and, I can't hold him to anything. I mean, Chris is his own man. I'm not going to hold his hand. I help people out when I can. But if somebody doesn't want to do something, I'm not going to make them do it. I think Chris is good at this. I think, he has a lot of potential. But, sometimes when you are used to playing that role of, I don't know how, I can't do it, I need help, someone has to do it for me, it just becomes a trap. And I think that is a lot of people in active addiction. I think that has a lot to do with it and a lot to do with how they started. Dale Carnegie wrote in his book, and he was talking about Dillinger and some other criminals and how they got their feeling of sense of importance. And important is what we all kind of want to be. We're very important to ourselves. And one way to feel important is to have other people help you and to have other people do things for you or to have people know you.